It started with laughter. Not the kind that warms your chest or makes you grin in spite of yourself. This was the sharp, cackling kind that cuts through the air like a knife. We were at Finnegan's, the usual Friday night dive with overpriced cocktails and too loud music. I'd tagged along reluctantly, more out of obligation than anything else. My wife, Natalie, insisted we needed a night out, and her friends backed her up like it was some kind of intervention. Looking back now, I should have seen it for what it really was, a setup. They were already tipsy when I arrived from work, hair perfectly styled, makeup glowing under the bar's dim amber lighting. Natalie was in a red dress I'd never seen before, low cut, hugging her hips like it had something to prove. She caught my eye across the room and smiled, but it wasn't the smile she used to give me. It was performative, almost calculated. I slid into the booth beside her, kissed her cheek, and noticed the way she tensed. Not enough for her friends to catch, but I felt it. I knew her body like I knew the rhythm of my own breathing, and that split-second recoil, it hit me harder than I let on. Then he walked in. Tall, older, expensive-looking. You could smell the wealth on him, the kind of money that doesn't try too hard. Perfectly tailored blazer, silver watch that probably cost more than our mortgage. He didn't come in with anyone. Just sauntered to the bar and ordered something dark and neat. Didn't even glance our way at first. But her friends noticed him right away. That's when the teasing started. "Oh, Nat, that guy is so your type. Bet you couldn't get him to buy you a drink." "No. Better. Bet you can't take him home tonight." Natalie laughed, too loud. "What do I get if I win?" $500, her best friend Kara said, flipping her hair like she was in a damn shampoo commercial. "But you've got to do more than flirt. You've got to seal the deal." The table erupted. Everyone was giggling like it was some dumb high school dare. Except me. I was frozen. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, eyes darting around like I was waiting for someone to jump out and yell gotcha. Natalie leaned in, lips close to my ear. "Relax. It's a joke." But her eyes didn't laugh with her voice. She'd already made up her mind. And then she did it. She stood up, straightened her dress, and walked toward the stranger with slow, deliberate steps. He turned just as she approached, and something passed between them. Not words, not even a smile. Just a look, an understanding, a spark. She sat down next to him, ordered a whiskey. I watched her hand brush his arm, the way she leaned in just a bit too close. Her laugh carried through the music, light and carefree. His hand found the small of her back. I sat there. For 10 minutes. 20. Kara kept smirking at me like this was some kind of progressive relationship test. Like I should be proud that my wife still had game. But there was nothing fun about it. My beer tasted like metal. My pulse thudded in my ears. After 45 minutes, she was gone. No text. No glance back. No good night. Just gone. The ride home was silent. I drove by myself. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. I stared at the windshield like it could give me answers. Like it could rewind time. Hours passed. At 1:43 a.m., I heard the front door open. Keys jingled. Heels clicking against the tile. Then the door creaked shut. She came into the kitchen like she wasn't just out screwing some stranger for money. Her lipstick was smudged. Hair a little tousled. She didn't look wrecked, just different. Like she'd stepped out of someone else's fantasy. I noticed the smell first. Expensive whiskey and cologne. Not mine. Not hers. Him. Then I saw the cash. A wad of bills stuffed haphazardly into her purse. She didn't even try to hide it. "Did you win the bet?" I asked, voice flat. She paused, halfway through pulling off her earrings. "What? The bet? Did you win?" A beat. Then, a soft smile. Not guilty, not ashamed. Almost smug. I did. I couldn't believe how calm she was. How casual. As if what she did wasn't a betrayal but a power move. "You fucked him," I said. Not a question. A truth. She didn't deny it. "Jesus, Nat. What the hell were you thinking?" "It was just a joke," she said, dropping the earrings onto the counter. "We were just playing around." I stared at her. This woman I had loved, built a life with, dreamed with. And I realized in that moment, she wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never had been. I didn't yell. Didn't throw things. I just walked to the sink, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out the window. She left the room a few minutes later. Went upstairs. Maybe she showered. Maybe she just crawled into our bed like nothing happened. But I stayed downstairs. Long enough to watch the sky start to lighten. Long enough to understand that something permanent had broken between us. A bet. A fucking dare. That's all it took to tear down everything we'd built. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to care. The next morning felt like walking into someone else's life. I stood in the kitchen, pouring coffee into a chipped mug, hands steady but heart hammering behind my ribs. The quiet felt obscene. Outside, the world carried on. Birds chirped. Cars passed. A jogger puffed past our window like nothing had changed. But everything had. Natalie walked in like it was just another Saturday. Barefoot, wearing that worn gray tank top I used to love. Now it clung to her like a lie. Her hair was pulled up in a messy bun. Makeup gone. Face clean, soft, familiar. Too familiar. The same face I'd kissed 1,000 times. But now all I saw was what that man must have seen. Her lips, her eyes, the way she moved. "Morning," she said, with a casual yawn, like she hadn't come home at nearly 2 a.m., with sex still clinging to her skin. I didn't answer. She opened the fridge, bent down to grab the oat milk. I hated that I looked at her legs. I hated more that I remembered how they looked wrapped around me, and now around someone else. Finally, I said it. "So, are we going to talk about it?" She turned slowly. "Talk about what?" The audacity of that response sent a rush of heat up my neck. "Don't do that." She rolled her eyes and leaned against the counter. "Come on, Caleb. It was a stupid bet. A dare. Kara was being an idiot and you fucked a stranger." Her mouth shut. I watched the denial form behind her eyes, then die before it reached her lips. She folded her arms, retreating into that smug, defensive posture I'd seen during arguments in the past. But this was different. This wasn't about chores or missed birthdays. This was our marriage. "Don't act like I ran off and fell in love with someone," she said. "It was just a night. A moment." "A moment," I echoed, shaking my head. "You threw our vows in the trash for a moment?" "It wasn't about that." Her voice rose. "God, it was a dare. It was supposed to be a joke. You're blowing this way out of proportion." My voice dropped into something cold. Was he wearing protection? That got her. The mask slipped. A flash of shame cracked through her expression before she turned away. "Unbelievable," I muttered, dragging a hand through my hair. "Jesus, Nat." She took a breath. "I made a mistake, okay? You don't have to keep hammering it into me. You've never made a bad call." "Not like this," I said. "Not something that cheapens everything we built." The silence after that was heavy, oppressive. I set my mug down and walked out of the kitchen. I needed air. Outside, the breeze was cool and sharp. I sat on the porch steps, elbows on my knees, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out with zero interest. Probably junk. Nope. It was Kara. "Kara, tell Natalie she's a legend." Followed by a string of laughing emojis, then, "Hope you got some of that prize money too." I stared at the screen, stunned. The bile rose in my throat. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't remorse. This was funny to them. I walked back inside and held up my phone. "Your friend thinks this is hilarious." Natalie glanced at the screen, and for a flicker of a second, she looked genuinely uncomfortable. But she covered it quickly with a sigh. "She's being a bitch. I didn't tell her to text you." "You didn't tell her not to, either," I snapped. "She's laughing because you're not even treating this like a betrayal." Natalie's tone hardened. "Okay, what do you want me to do? Cry? Beg? Grovel at your feet? I want you to give a damn. I want you to act like this means something." Her eyes flashed with something ugly. "You want a show? Fine. I'll cry. I'll say I'm sorry for letting a little bit of fun go too far. For doing something reckless. For feeling alive for once." That stopped me cold. "Alive?" I repeated. "So I'm the dead part of your life now?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. And just like that, the love I'd been holding on to by the skin of my teeth started to rot. "I can't even look at you right now," I said, grabbing my keys. "Where are you going?" she asked, voice suddenly small. "Away from here. Before I say something I can't take back." I drove aimlessly for hours. Through old neighborhoods, past places we used to go, first apartments, cheap diners, the lake where she once danced barefoot on the dock at midnight. I remembered that Natalie. The one who used to trace circles on my palm during movies. The one who cried when I first told her I loved her. But that version of her didn't exist anymore. She'd been replaced with someone who gambled with people's hearts and laughed when the chips hit the floor. That night, I slept in the guest room. She didn't knock, didn't text, didn't apologize. But Kara did. Another message. This one at 2 a.m. "Kara, don't be mad. That's a free spirit. You should be flattered that she still gets attention like that. Flattered. That was the moment I realized I didn't just resent Natalie. I resented Kara. Deeply. Fiercely. She'd lit the match, poured the gasoline, and handed Natalie the damn torch. And now? Now I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. What would she do if someone turned the tables? What would Kara do if she were the one left questioning trust? And suddenly, something in me shifted. The pain didn't fade. But the helplessness? That was gone. The idea didn't come all at once. It crept in, slow and dark, like smoke from an unseen fire. I was sitting on the edge of the bed in the guest room, staring at the floor, the carpet beneath my feet worn from years of neglect. It was nearly 3 a.m., and the house was dead quiet. Natalie hadn't come in to talk. She hadn't knocked. Not even once. I'd been holding my tongue for 24 hours straight, trying not to let the full weight of the betrayal drag me down. But now, in the cold stillness of night, I wasn't just hurt. I was angry, and not the kind of angry that explodes in shouting matches or fists through walls. No, this was surgical, cold, controlled. A different kind of thought started taking root. A what if? What if I stopped being the wounded husband? What if I gave her, and Kara, a taste of their own twisted little game? Because that's what it was, wasn't it? A game. A dare. A drunken joke at my expense. A night of passion with a stranger, and my wife treated it like a scavenger hunt. And Kara? She had been the ringleader. Kara, with her flirty sarcasm and smug girls just want to have fun attitude. The one who lit the fuse and cheered when the bomb went off. She was the one who whispered in Natalie's ear and laughed as she walked off to find a stranger to screw. That was when the thought crystallized. If Natalie didn't care about loyalty, why should I? If they wanted a game, fine. I could play one of my own. But mine wouldn't be stupid or careless. Mine would be calculated, deliberate, cruel. I started small. The next time Kara came over, which happened to be just a few days later, I was calm, too calm. I sat in the living room pretending to scroll my phone as the two of them laughed in the kitchen, wine glasses clinking like nothing had happened. Natalie had recovered easily. She never even looked embarrassed when she mentioned that night, in vague terms. As if it were a funny memory she might scrapbook one day. Kara was in rare form, wearing that skin-tight green dress she loved, legs crossed at the knee, hair up in a messy bun that screamed effortless sexy. She tossed back her wine like it was oxygen. When Natalie got up to check something burning in the oven, Kara flopped down on the couch beside me with a dramatic sigh. "You holding up, Caleb?" she asked, grinning. I smiled. Just a hint. Just enough. "You're the one who started it, Kara," I said, raising an eyebrow. "You really think I'd take that lightly?" She laughed. "God, you're not still mad about that? It was a dare, Caleb." She won it. Be proud. Proud. That word again. These women were masters at twisting pain into punchlines. I leaned toward her, just slightly. Let my voice drop. Just be careful what dares you throw around next time. You might not like how they end. She blinked, surprised. Then she laughed again, softer this time, and tilted her head. "Is that a threat?" she asked, biting her lip, playful but curious. I shrugged. "Let's call it a warning." She looked at me differently after that. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the fact I hadn't snapped or lashed out. I was composed, confident, and that, I could tell, made her nervous. Or maybe it intrigued her. The same woman who threw my wife into the arms of a stranger suddenly looked at me like I might be the next bad decision worth making. And just like that, the seed was planted. That night, after Kara left, Natalie was in the bathroom brushing her teeth when I walked by the open door. She didn't look up. "You were quiet tonight," she said, voice muffled by toothpaste. "Just thinking," I replied. "About what?" I leaned against the doorframe. "About how easily people justify betrayal." She paused mid-brush, met my eyes in the mirror. But she didn't say a word. She just spit, rinsed, and walked past me. No apology. No regret. She left the bathroom light on behind her, and I just stood there in the reflection, wondering how many people knew what it felt like to look at someone they once loved and feel nothing but the urge to burn everything to the ground. Over the next few days, I kept myself cool, smiling, patient, a little quieter than usual, sure, but not cold. Not bitter. I made breakfast, cleaned the kitchen. I even kissed Natalie on the cheek before work like everything was fine. That's the trick with revenge. You don't serve it cold. You serve it invisible. I knew Kara's routines. She was at our house at least once a week. They went to the same yoga studio. They shared drinks, stories, secrets, and probably details about that night, which made what I was planning all the more satisfying. The irony of seducing the woman who dared my wife to cheat. It wasn't just revenge. It was justice. A few days later, Kara dropped by while Natalie was at work. She claimed she was returning a scarf, but we both knew that was bullshit. She lingered in the living room, complimented my shirt, asked if I'd been working out. I hadn't changed a damn thing. She was just looking differently now, seeing something she hadn't before. Confidence. Danger. I offered her a drink. She took it. We talked. And somewhere between, remember that bar night? And, you've always been kind of a mystery. Her legs tucked under her on the couch, and our eyes started holding just a little too long. I let my hand brush hers once. Just once. And when she didn't pull away, I knew I was in. This wasn't about falling for Kara. Hell no. This was war. And I had just fired my first shot. It was Kara's laugh that gave me the opening. We were at a small gathering a week after I brushed her hand on the couch. One of those casual Friday night things. Charcuterie boards, low music, friends who thought they still had energy after work, but were really just counting down until they could go home and crash. Natalie was mingling, drink in hand, seemingly oblivious to the tension threading through the room. Or maybe she just didn't care. That seemed to be her new specialty. Kara was in a black romper that looked like it had been sprayed onto her skin. Every man in the room looked at her, and she knew it. She always knew it. But this time, she was looking back at only one of them. Me. She stood near the patio doors, laughing with two of our mutual friends, Melissa and Aaron. Her laugh was loud, uninhibited, almost theatrical. That laugh was how she baited attention. Always had. But tonight, it was aimed at me. I gave her nothing for a moment. Just enough eye contact to stoke the fire. Then I excused myself from a conversation I wasn't even pretending to enjoy, made my way across the room, and stopped a few feet from her group. I waited until the conversation dipped, then leaned in slightly. I said, I still can't decide if you're a genius or a complete sociopath. Kara turned to me, eyes glittering. Only two options. You're no fun. Melissa and Aaron laughed awkwardly and peeled off, sensing something unspoken in the air between us. Now it was just the two of us. Kara tilted her head. Genius or sociopath? What brought that on? I sipped my drink. The bar bet. A slow, knowing smile spread across her face. Oh, that. You do realize, I said, voice low, that it wasn't just a dare to her. It wrecked something. Kara's expression didn't falter. And yet here you are? Still married. Still wearing your ring. I looked down at the band of metal on my finger. Funny how something so small could feel so heavy. Wearing it doesn't mean what it used to, I said quietly. She studied me, and for the first time, there was a flicker of something beyond smug amusement in her eyes. Curiosity, or maybe opportunity. I was surprised, she said, that you didn't blow up that night. Most men would have made a scene. You just sat there, calm, stoic, watching. You wanted a reaction? I expected one. You're not used to men staying quiet when they're pissed. I'm not used to men staying. That last part hung between us like a challenge. Maybe I just haven't figured out what I'm staying for yet, I said. She smiled again, slower this time. Or maybe you have. We didn't touch. We didn't flirt outright. But the energy shifted then. Tangible. A magnetic tension buzzing just under the surface. We said nothing else to each other for the rest of the night. But she watched me from across the room. Every time I moved, I felt her eyes. Every time she laughed, I wondered if it was for me. Natalie never noticed. Or maybe she did, but she didn't care. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. Kara, genius and sociopath? That's got to be the hottest insult I've ever been given. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, me. Still haven't decided which one fits. Her response was immediate. Kara, why not both? That was it. The door was open. Over the next few days, I let the conversation trickle. I didn't push. She initiated just as often as I did. It started with sarcastic comments and quick-witted jabs, but soon it shifted. Late-night messages, shared music, jokes about the past. Slowly, she began peeling back the layers. Not too much, never all at once, but just enough to keep things interesting. One night, around midnight, I texted, "Still think what you did was just a joke?" She replied, "I think it hurt you more than you let on." I typed, You're not wrong. Her answer came slower this time. You were always the quiet type. Still waters and all that. Me. Still waters can drown you. Kara, are you trying to drown me, Caleb? The double meaning wasn't lost on either of us. By the next weekend, things felt different. We hadn't touched. We hadn't even been alone again. But our conversations were dripping with something thick and dangerous. At another get-together, this one hosted at our place, Kara showed up late, wearing heels that clicked like gunfire on the tile. Natalie was busy in the kitchen. I was on the patio stringing up lights when Kara found me. You've been quiet today, she said, stepping up behind me. Been busy. She reached over, adjusted a knot in the string of bulbs. You always were good with your hands. My fingers stopped. The current between us spiked. Funny, I said. I never used them on you. She tilted her head, voice softer now. Not yet. That was the moment. The moment I knew she'd let it happen. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not even next week. But the idea had taken hold. She wanted me. And she knew I knew. Natalie came out a few seconds later and called me in to grab more napkins. Kara turned and walked back inside like nothing happened. But her fingers had grazed my wrist when she passed me. Quick, deliberate, calculated. That night, after everyone had gone and Natalie was asleep upstairs, I sat on the couch in the dark, scrolling back through my messages with Kara. She was funny, smart, dangerous, and suddenly, she was mine to use. What she did to Natalie, egging her on, daring her to humiliate me, was unforgivable. But what if I used the same weapon she handed my wife to destroy her? What if I turned the best friend into the revenge Natalie never saw coming? The cruelest betrayals come from those closest. And Kara was already halfway to the edge. All I had to do was push. It started the way all dangerous things do, quietly. A buzz of my phone late one night. Not suspicious. Not outright inappropriate. Just enough to pull me out of sleep and into something warmer than the sheets wrapped around me. Kara, can't sleep. You up? Natalie snored softly beside me, her back turned like always. These days, it was her preferred position, turned away from everything. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then, me. Yeah. There was a pause. A longer one this time. Then, Kara, didn't think you'd answer. Me. Didn't think you'd message. Kara, liar. The typing bubble pulsed, disappeared, came back. Kara, what are we doing? I didn't respond immediately. The question wasn't innocent, and she knew it. We'd been dancing around it for days now. That slow-burning tension threaded into every glance, every teasing message. A touch of sarcasm wrapped around something far more primal. I typed, me. I think we're seeing how far we're willing to go. She read it instantly. Another long pause. Then came the reply. Kara, I'm willing. The air left my lungs like she'd punched it out of me. My hand trembled slightly as I locked the phone and stared at the ceiling. My heart thundered. I hadn't touched her. Not yet. But she'd said it. Written it. Put it in black and white. She was ready. The next day, I texted her a meme. Dumb. Silly. Something about wine moms and passive-aggressive texts. Her reply was fast. Kara, you trying to flirt with me or distract me from the fact I said I'm willing to screw my best friend's husband? Me. Maybe both. Kara, you're not as innocent as you used to be. Me. Neither are you. That was how it began. Our conversations shifted. Fewer jokes. More heat. The lines between us, once subtle and cautious, now blurred and bleeding. She started sending voice notes. A breathy laugh. A whispered goodnight. I saved them, listened to them more than once. Her voice crawled under my skin. I started noticing things I hadn't before. How her texts came faster at night. How her tone changed depending on the hour. How she never once mentioned Natalie. Not anymore. It was like she knew we were both pretending that part of the equation didn't matter. One night, we were at a friend's barbecue. Natalie was off chatting with the hosts, a beer in hand, oblivious to the way Kara and I orbited closer with each passing hour. It wasn't physical, not yet, but she kept brushing her hair back behind her ear, exposing her neck like a deliberate act. She licked the salt from the rim of her margarita with slow precision. And every so often, she looked at me, long unapologetic. I finally caught her alone near the side fence, under the soft glow of patio string lights. Enjoying yourself? I asked. She leaned back against the wood, smile wicked. You look like a man dying of thirst in a room full of ice. You always talk like that. Only when someone's paying attention. I stepped closer, not touching, but just enough to make her breath hitch. Her gaze flicked down to my mouth, then back up. Still waters, she whispered. What? Still waters can drown you. She was quoting me. From our messages. I didn't smile. I didn't speak. I just let the tension bloom between us. And then I leaned in. Not to kiss her, not yet, but just enough to brush her ear with my voice. Tell me something, Kara. Anything. When you dared Natalie to sleep with that guy, did you know it would break us? She swallowed. Her eyes softened for the first time. I didn't think it would matter. And now I want to be the one you break her with. I didn't move, didn't flinch, but in that moment, I knew she was mine. Not in some sappy romantic way. Not love. Power. She was excited by the wrongness of it. The thrill. The danger of stepping where she shouldn't. She wanted to be wanted, especially by the one man she wasn't allowed to have. And I wanted to hurt Natalie in a way that words and fights and silence never could. I wanted her to see it when it happened. After the barbecue, Kara and I didn't speak the rest of the night. But her texts hit harder the next morning. Kara, you smelled like cedar and regret last night. Me, you looked like temptation wrapped in sin. Kara, you ever going to kiss me? Me, not yet. She sent back a single emoji, a flame. The flirting turned bolder. One day she sent me a photo, just her legs, bare, stretched out across her sofa. A glass of wine resting on her thigh. Not explicit, not even scandalous, but intimate, intentional. Kara, wish you were here. I replied. Me, wish your legs were wrapped around me. She waited longer that time. Then, Kara, they will be. I started walking around the house differently. Confident. Lighter. Natalie noticed, but she mistook it for forgiveness. You seem better, she said one night, crawling into bed beside me, her voice soft. Yeah, I replied. I am. She smiled and turned over, satisfied. She had no idea it was another woman who was making me sleep easier. The messages continued. Late nights. Early mornings. Midday breaks when she'd sneak to the bathroom at work just to tell me she was thinking about me. The game escalated with every text. Until one night, she sent a voice message. Just a whisper. I touch myself when I read your messages. I played it 3 times. And I didn't text back. That night, I lay in bed next to my wife, the woman who had gambled our entire marriage on a joke, and I imagined her best friend in my arms instead. I imagined pulling Kara's body against mine, gripping her hips, whispering in her ear, you started this. And finally, I'm finishing it. She wore red again. Not the deep, sultry red Natalie had flaunted the night she walked into that stranger's arms, but something brighter, sharper. Kara always understood the power of visual signals. Her dress at this particular gathering was short, with a plunging neckline and a slit high enough to whisper promises no one else was supposed to hear. Except me. It was a small party, just 8 or 9 of us. Friends, drinks, low music, and that subtle tension that only I could really feel. Natalie had dragged me there, claiming we should make an effort to be social again. That alone was ironic enough to keep me from saying no. She wore her familiar false smile all evening, talking about weekend hikes and podcast recommendations like our marriage hadn't been fractured by betrayal. But Kara? Kara barely looked at Natalie all night. Her attention flickered, always back to me. I caught her in the hallway leading to the bathroom. The others were out on the patio, distracted, wine glasses in hand. We passed each other like strangers, bodies brushing for a fraction of a second. Her perfume was warm, spicy, like cinnamon and risk. You did that on purpose, I murmured as I turned to face her. She paused. Did what? The dress. The hallway. She stepped back, hands behind her, her spine pressing into the wall. You really think I plan everything? I think you don't do anything without knowing exactly what effect it'll have. She smiled, one side of her mouth curling. And what effect am I having right now? My hand reached up without thought, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. My fingertips lingered on her cheek. She didn't flinch. Careful, she whispered. That's the point, I said. The moment hung there, heat pressing between us, mouths just inches apart. But I didn't kiss her. I didn't need to. Her eyes told me she felt it too. We were balancing on the edge of a blade. Later that night, after we got home, Natalie curled up on the couch, her feet in my lap like nothing had happened. Like we were some perfect couple rebuilding something worth salvaging. She laughed at a rerun of a show we'd already seen. I played my part, until my phone buzzed. Kara, did your wife notice your hand on my waist in the hallway? I paused. My pulse jumped. Me? No. She's not paying attention to anything anymore. Kara, then maybe we can stop pretending. That message stayed on my screen for the rest of the night. I didn't reply. Not immediately, but I felt it under my skin. She was ready, and I was already halfway there. The next afternoon, she came over. Said she left something at our place during the party. Earrings, maybe, or a charger. I don't even remember the excuse. She knocked on the door at 3:14 p.m. Natalie was out with friends. The kids were with their dad. The house was quiet. Dangerously so. She stepped inside like she lived here, brushing past me. I let the door shut slowly behind us. You didn't really forget anything, I said. She turned to me, eyebrows raised. Nope. You just wanted to see if I'd let you in. Her smile was almost smug. And you did. I walked past her into the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, pretending I still had control. I didn't. You're playing with fire, I said. She stepped closer. So are you. I turned around. Our eyes locked. And for the first time, I let myself take a real look at her. The woman who had dared my wife to cheat, who was now becoming my accomplice in a revenge fantasy that was starting to feel all too real. Her voice dropped. Tell me something. What? If I kissed you right now, would you stop me? I didn't answer. She stepped closer. I didn't move. But just before her lips could meet mine, I tilted my head, just slightly, and whispered in her ear instead. Not yet. She exhaled, frustrated and thrilled all at once. You're going to make me work for it? She asked. I want you to want it first, I said. More than you've ever wanted anything. Her hand found my chest, fingertips tracing over my shirt, feeling the rhythm of my heart. I already do, she said. But still, I didn't kiss her. I wanted her to burn for it. That night, Natalie made pasta. She sang along with the music playing on her phone, carefree, content, pretending the pieces hadn't shifted while she wasn't looking. You've been good lately, she said, sipping wine. Different. Different how? She shrugged. More confident. I met her eyes and smiled faintly. Must be the company I've been keeping. She didn't catch it. Or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. The thing about betrayal is, once you cross the line, every glance, every silence, every moment becomes a potential confession. And Natalie? She'd long since stopped listening for mine. Kara and I kept circling. At another group outing a few days later, I walked past her and brushed my fingers against her lower back, just once. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But her skin shivered under my touch. Later that night, she texted me. Kara, don't touch me like that in public. I almost lost it. Me. You didn't say stop. Kara, I never will. It was official. The game had begun. We weren't just flirting now. We were conspiring. Natalie, meanwhile, seemed blissfully unaware. She was more affectionate lately, like she believed things were healing, like our old rhythm was returning. She didn't realize that every time she kissed me, I was thinking about her best friend's breath in my ear. That every time she touched me, I remembered how Kara's skin felt under my palm. This wasn't just about sex anymore. It was about power, control, payback. And I wasn't stopping until I'd taken everything from the woman who laughed while she destroyed me. Especially her best friend. It finally happened on a Thursday. A quiet, forgettable Thursday. The kind of day where nothing should change. But everything did. Natalie had left early that morning for a yoga retreat upstate. 2 days. Just her, a few women, and the false belief that stretching and breathing deeply could erase infidelity. I didn't argue when she brought it up. I encouraged it. It gave me the space I'd been waiting for. I told myself this wasn't about lust. That it wasn't about Kara, either, not really. This was about symmetry. Justice. Natalie had crossed the line and laughed about it. I was going to cross it, too, but I'd make sure the bruise it left would last far longer than hers ever did. I invited Kara over with the thinnest excuse. I told her I needed help rearranging the upstairs guest room. She said yes without hesitation. No emoji. No teasing. Just, what time? That was when I knew she wanted it just as badly as I did. She arrived just after noon, wearing a white button-down shirt tied at the waist and tight denim shorts that should have been illegal. Her legs stretched endlessly beneath her, and her sunglasses hung low on her nose, eyes already locked on mine. She didn't bring a bag. No water. Nothing for actual help. Because we both knew there was no furniture getting moved today. Where do you want me? She asked. I closed the door behind her, turned the lock with a slow click. I think you already know. Her gaze didn't waver. So this is it, huh? I stepped toward her, close enough to feel the heat off her skin. No more teasing, she added. No more pretending, I said. She let out a slow breath, then reached up and ran her fingers along the collar of my shirt. You're sure? She asked. That question, the last possible moment of restraint. A door that could still be closed. But I didn't close it. I took her face in my hands, tilted her chin up, and kissed her. Hard. Her lips parted instantly. No hesitation. Her hands slid around my back, nails digging into my shirt as if to say, finally. The kiss was fire. Hungry, desperate, months of tension melting into one collision. We stumbled back into the living room, hands everywhere, her breath hot against my neck. My fingers found the knot on her shirt, yanked it loose, revealing bare skin beneath. Her legs wrapped around my waist when I lifted her, her back hitting the wall with a thud that sent a picture frame tilting sideways. I knew you'd be like this, she whispered between kisses. Quiet and controlled, until you snap. You wanted me to snap. I dared you to. My mouth found her collarbone. Her body arched against mine. The room blurred around us. Sofa, carpet, sunlight bleeding through the blinds. None of it mattered. All that mattered was that she was here, wrapped around me, moaning into my ear while my wife was somewhere else, believing everything was getting better. This was the revenge I had fantasized about. Not the act itself, but the message behind it. The symbolism. Natalie had turned my life into a joke. Now I was rewriting the punchline. Afterward, Kara lay across the couch, legs tangled in a blanket, hair tousled like she'd just walked out of a dream. She lit a cigarette even though she didn't smoke. You look proud of yourself, I said, sipping water, shirt still unbuttoned. She smirked. You didn't exactly hold back. I wasn't trying to. Silence lingered between us, thick and knowing. Do you feel better? She asked after a moment. Like really? I looked at her. The woman who had turned my wife into a joke for sport, who had flirted with fire and finally let herself burn. I feel alive, I said, for the first time in months. She rolled onto her side, propping her head up with her hand. Good, because I'd do it again. You're not afraid she'll find out? Are you? I shrugged. Maybe I want her to. That made her pause. You want to hurt her that badly? Kara asked, not judgmental, just curious. She made it easy. She's going to break if she finds out. She should have thought of that before she broke me. Kara studied me a little longer, then nodded. Fair. She stayed for hours. We didn't talk about Natalie much. We didn't need to. This wasn't a love affair. It was something darker. A transaction built on betrayal. A trade of pain for power. But in the quiet moments between, I saw something else in Kara. Softness, maybe. Regret. Or something dangerously close to guilt. You know, she said as she was pulling on her shorts, I never thought I'd actually do this. Sleep with me. She nodded. I always thought about it, she added. But it was just fantasy. Until Natalie pulled that stunt. Then it became something else. Revenge. Maybe. Or maybe I just saw the opportunity to get what I wanted. And what is that? She looked over her shoulder and smiled. Slow, sly, eyes glittering. You. She kissed me again before she left. Slower this time. Less hungry. Like a promise. I watched her walk down the front steps, swing her hips deliberately, as if the street itself were watching. When she disappeared from view, I leaned against the door frame and exhaled. The world looked different now. The air outside felt sharper, brighter. Natalie was due back the next day, and I had no idea what version of myself would greet her. But I knew one thing for sure. The line had been crossed, and there was no going back. I didn't expect to feel good. That was the strangest part. After all the anger, the months of humiliation, the cold nights of pretending not to notice Natalie flinching when I reached for her, I thought that sleeping with Kara would leave me empty. But it didn't. It left me calm. Not because I was falling for her. No, it was never about that. But because, for once, I was the one in control. Not the victim. Not the afterthought. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was deciding. Kara and I had crossed the line, and now there was no pretending. What we had was real, not emotionally, but physically, intimately, secretly real. And I carried that secret like armor. Natalie came home from her retreat with a yoga mat slung over one shoulder, and a tote bag full of herbal teas and affirmation cards. "Did you miss me?" she asked, kissing me on the cheek. I nodded. Of course. And I didn't even flinch when I lied. She was radiant in that way people are when they believe they've fixed themselves. She talked nonstop about breath work, journaling, emotional reset. I listened. I nodded. I smiled when appropriate. And every few hours, when she wasn't looking, I texted Kara. Me. She's back. And completely unaware. Kara. God, that's hot. Me. Your scent is still on the couch. Kara. Don't wash it yet. The thrill of it wasn't just in the sex. It was in the layers. The double life. The secret glances. The coded messages. It was a game we played across dinner tables and inside group chats. The irony never left me. Kara had encouraged my wife to cheat for fun, and now she was doing the same, only this time with me. And I wasn't laughing. I was savoring. We got good at hiding. She knew how to time her visits. Only when Natalie was working late or out with friends. She parked 2 blocks away. She wore different outfits when leaving than the one she arrived in. We texted through an encrypted app. No names. No photos. Just words. Dangerous. Dirty. Laced with memory. Sometimes we didn't even have sex. Sometimes we just sat on the back porch, sharing a drink, talking about the people we were hurting like it was a puzzle we'd already solved. I think she suspects something, I told Kara once. She was curled up in one of our patio chairs, wearing one of my old t-shirts, legs bare. She's not asking questions. She doesn't want the answers. Exactly, Kara said. She's hoping her silence keeps things safe. I studied her in the dim light, the curve of her knee catching a slice of moonlight. Do you ever feel guilty? She met my eyes. Do you? I didn't answer, because guilt was a strange thing. It never came when I was with Kara. It crept in afterward, lying in bed beside Natalie, her fingers brushing my chest, asking if I wanted to talk about us. And still, I didn't stop. Because every moment with Kara reminded me that Natalie was the one who let this rot in first. She made it okay to laugh at our vows. Now I was just laughing back. One night, Kara and I met at a hotel. It wasn't planned. She texted, "Need you. Can't stop thinking about Tuesday." I made up a story about grabbing drinks with an old college friend, and within 40 minutes, I was standing in the hallway of a dimly lit boutique hotel downtown. Room 312. She opened the door wearing nothing but one of her silk robes, short, black, tied loose at the waist. "Hi," she said. I stepped inside, and before the door even clicked shut, my hands were on her hips. Her robe slid open, revealing everything. We didn't make it to the bed for 20 minutes. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets, soaked in sweat and perfume. She rolled over, head on my chest. "You ever think about what would happen if we got caught?" "Every day." She grinned. And I don't care. That was a lie. Of course I cared. But by then, I was too far in. The double life had become second nature. Lying was a language I now spoke fluently. And Kara had become the perfect accomplice. Seductive, dangerous, loyal only to the thrill. We started seeing each other more. Natalie noticed. She started asking odd questions. "Why do you keep smiling at your phone? Who were you texting during dinner? Why did Kara text you a thumbs-up emoji at 1 a.m.? The cracks were forming. But I played dumb. I said Kara was just being her usual flirty, unfiltered self. That she messaged everyone like that. That she was Natalie's friend, not mine. And for a little while longer, she believed it. Kara loved the deception. She'd say things like, "We're in a movie," or "Do you think she has any idea what I whispered to you at brunch?" And I'd laugh, because it was so absurd. This woman, this friend who once dared Natalie to sleep with a stranger, was now sneaking into my bed, moaning my name, saying things like, "I've wanted you since before she ever touched you." And part of me believed it. Or maybe I just wanted to. One afternoon, while Natalie was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. Kara's name lit up the screen. The message preview showed just one word. Missed. I froze. Natalie didn't see it. But I felt the jolt run down my spine. It was the first time I realized Kara wasn't just playing anymore. She was slipping. Later that night, I messaged Kara. "Me. Careful. She almost saw your text." Kara. "Maybe I wanted her to." Me. "You trying to blow this up?" Kara. "Not unless you want me to." That was when it hit me. The game I started as revenge, the cool, calculated response to betrayal, had started to shift. Kara wasn't just helping me settle a score anymore. She was building something on the ashes. Something unstable. Something with expectations. The double life was cracking, and we were all about to fall through. It was bound to happen. You can dance on a wire for only so long before your foot misses a step. And when you're living two lives, two women, two stories, two masks, one moment is all it takes to rip it all down. Mine came on a Wednesday. It started small, subtle. Natalie had been watching me more lately, as if suddenly realizing I was no longer orbiting around her like I used to. There was suspicion in her eyes, hesitation in her touch. The shift in power hadn't gone unnoticed. She didn't ask questions at first, but she observed, and that's always more dangerous. That afternoon, I was in the kitchen when Kara's name lit up my phone. I had just poured myself a coffee, Natalie was upstairs in the shower, and for the briefest second, I didn't think. I picked it up. Kara, you left a scratch on my thigh, asshole. Don't pretend you didn't mean to. No emoji, no code, just raw, exposed truth. I stared at the screen. A second passed, then a voice from behind me. Who's texting you? I froze, turned. Natalie stood halfway down the stairs, towel wrapped around her, hair wet, eyes sharp. What? I asked, stalling. Your phone buzzed. You look like you saw a ghost. I forced a laugh. Just a work thing. She came down slowly. Who's Kara calling an asshole? My blood turned to ice. She'd seen it. She never stopped walking. Just came straight to me and held out her hand. Give me the phone. Nat. Give it to me, Caleb. I hesitated, then handed it over, praying she wouldn't know how to bypass the new lock screen settings I'd changed weeks ago. But she didn't need to. The notification was still visible. Her thumb tapped it. The thread opened. I watched her face go blank as her eyes moved line by line down the screen. Breath by breath, her world unraveled. Her hand lowered slowly, like she didn't even feel the weight of the phone anymore. You and Kara? I didn't speak. There was nothing to say. Her expression wasn't anger. Not yet. It was disbelief. A stunned, hollow silence that felt somehow louder than yelling. She backed away a step. Then another. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Then, suddenly, she threw the phone. Hard. It hit the fridge and shattered against the tile. You bastard, she screamed, the silence gone in an instant. I stepped forward. Natalie. How long? Her voice was shaking now, raw and high. How long? I held her gaze. Does it matter? That did it. She slapped me. Hard. You lied to me. I didn't flinch. You dared me to sleep with a stranger, and you thought I'd just forget that? I said, voice low, steady. You thought I'd just move on while you laughed about it with your best friend? She was crying now, mascara bleeding into the corners of her eyes. It was a mistake, she whispered. No, I said. It was a choice. You made it. In front of me. And she pushed you into it. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing there. You did this to get back at me? I didn't answer. Say it, she said, fists clenched. Say it. I wanted you to feel what I felt, I said. She sank onto a stool, like the weight of the room had finally crushed her. And Kara? She asked, barely audible. She knew what that would do to me. She didn't care, I said. Just like you didn't. She looked up, something dark flickering in her eyes. She used to say she wanted what we had, that you were too good for me. I blinked. What? She used to joke about it, Natalie said, voice flat. When we were drunk. When we'd fight. She always had something to say about you. I just never thought. She trailed off. I knew then that the betrayal cut deeper than I intended. It wasn't just me. It was her too. Kara had played both sides, and now Natalie was seeing that clearly for the first time. She stood up, slowly. I want you out, she said. Nat, get your shit. I don't care where you go, but you're not sleeping in this house tonight. The calm in her voice was scarier than the screaming. I nodded once. Then I walked past her, grabbed my keys, my coat, and the overnight bag I hadn't even realized I'd packed mentally days ago. I didn't go far. I didn't go to Kara's either. I checked into a hotel across town. Clean, quiet, impersonal. I stared at the ceiling for an hour, the silence ringing in my ears. Then the phone buzzed. Kara, is it done? I didn't reply. Another message came. Kara, did she find out? Then, Kara, Caleb, talk to me. I stared at her name for a long time before responding. Me. She knows. A pause. Then, Kara, what do you want me to do? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. That night, I sat at the edge of the bed and realized something I hadn't expected. Winning didn't feel the way I thought it would. I had hurt her. I had burned her. But in the ashes, all I could see were the ghosts of what we used to be. And the woman I used to love was crying in our kitchen, alone, because I had become exactly what she accused me of. Cold, calculated, cruel. But maybe that's what betrayal does. It changes your shape. The next morning, I woke to another message from Kara. Kara, I'm not sorry. Then, Kara, she had it coming. And for the first time since this all began, I felt something new toward Kara. Disgust. The house looked different when I returned. Not physically. Nothing had moved. The furniture was still arranged the same way. The scent of Natalie's eucalyptus candles still hung faintly in the air. But something was off. The energy. The silence. Like the walls themselves knew the truth now and were choosing sides. Natalie was in the kitchen again, but she didn't look up when I walked in. I'd come back to talk. Not to fix things. I knew we were past that. But to say the things I hadn't let myself say before. The hotel room had given me too much time to think. About the choices. The consequences. The versions of myself I'd buried under months of resentment. I just came to talk, I said, voice low. She didn't move. I'm not staying. She turned around slowly. Her eyes were red, but dry. And there was something eerie in her stillness. Like a lake right before a storm hits. I know everything, she said. I blinked. What? Her lips tightened. She told me. I stared at her. Kara. Natalie nodded. She came here. Last night. My heart kicked. She told me it started before the retreat. She continued. She said you kissed her first. Said you sent the first message. That you planned all of it. That you were just using her to hurt me. That last part wasn't entirely wrong. But hearing it said like that, blunt, raw, made something twist inside my chest. I didn't plan all of it, I said. She was willing. More than willing. Natalie laughed, bitter and sharp. Of course she was. She always wanted you. Then why are you mad at me? Because I was stupid, she spat. I thought I could cheat once, one night, and we could move past it. I thought we could fix it. But you? You didn't want to fix anything. I stepped forward. You're right. I didn't. Not after that night. Her eyes snapped to mine. Then why stay? Why pretend? Because I wanted you to feel it, I said. What it's like to watch the person you love walk away with someone else. What it's like to choke on silence. To smile through rage. To sleep next to someone you can't even look at. She turned away from me, gripping the edge of the counter. I said I was sorry. You never meant it. She spun back toward me. And Kara? Did she mean it when she sent you photos from our girls' nights? When she laughed about fooling me? About screwing me over just to get a taste of what I had? I blinked. What are you talking about? She didn't tell you? Tell me what? She's been taking photos of us. You and me. The house. My texts. She's been feeding them to her sister, the one who runs that stupid blog about relationships and red flags. Natalie's voice cracked. Kara's been documenting us. Like we're some case study. I didn't believe it. Not fully. Until Natalie opened her phone, pulled up the blog, and showed me a photo. Me, sitting on our back deck, sipping coffee. Natalie's hand on my knee. The caption read, "When you know he's thinking about someone else." Below it, a quote. Cheating isn't always physical. Sometimes it's just watching your best friend's husband avoid his wife like she's a chore. I felt sick. She said it was revenge, Natalie whispered. Said she deserved you more than I ever did. She said that. Word for word. I turned away, pacing. My skin felt too tight. This had never just been about me and Natalie. Kara had been playing her own game all along. And I'd fallen right into it. She wanted to win, Natalie said behind me. She didn't care who got crushed. I shook my head slowly. She told me she hated what you did. That she only got involved because she could, Natalie snapped. You were never the point, Caleb. We were. You and me. Our life. Our story. She wanted to ruin it. Wanted to prove she could. I sat down, breath shallow. She said she loved me. I muttered. Natalie gave a hollow laugh. She loved destroying things. You were just the easiest one to reach. The next day, Kara messaged me. Kara, she told you, didn't she? I didn't respond. Another came. Kara, I didn't lie. Not really. You and I, we had something real. Still, I said nothing. She sent a photo. Her, sitting on my side of the bed, the sheets tangled around her hips. Hair messy, eyes wide. Kara, you gonna ghost me now? After everything? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed. Me. You said you wanted to win. Congrats. Kara, don't do this. Caleb, I blocked her. Natalie didn't ask me to stay. She didn't ask me to leave, either. We just existed. Separately. Silently. For a few more days. Every movement in the house was quiet, measured. We passed each other like ghosts. On the third day, she came into the living room while I was packing a suitcase. She didn't sit. She didn't yell. She just asked, "Did you ever love me after what I did?" I looked at her, the woman I once wanted to grow old with. The woman who shattered me for a dare. And despite everything, the answer came out painfully honest. Yes, I said, but it wasn't the same kind of love after that night. She nodded. Then she turned and walked away. Later that night, as I stood by the front door, suitcase in hand, Natalie appeared again. "I don't hate you," she said. "Same," I replied. "But I hope you don't think this makes us even." I smiled faintly. "No, I think it makes us ruined." She didn't cry. Neither did I. I walked out without looking back. It all started with a bet. A stupid, drunken, impulsive bet made in a loud bar with too many lights and not enough decency. One moment, I was watching my wife smile at me over the rim of her cocktail, and the next, I was watching her walk across the room to a stranger, a tall man in a sharp suit, with the kind of sway in her hips that once belonged only to me. She left with him. She came back reeking of whiskey, smug satisfaction, and something else I couldn't name. Something guilty. And when I asked her what the hell she thought she was doing, she just laughed and said, "It was just a dare." A dare. One stupid joke. And now, months later, the joke was over. So was the marriage. And I wasn't laughing anymore. I stood outside the bar again, the same one where it all began. It hadn't changed. Same neon buzz, same groups of flirty strangers. But I wasn't the same man who walked out of here numb that night. I wasn't the man who curled up in silence while my wife texted her friends and laughed about winning $200 and a story to tell. I was colder now, sharper. And beside me stood Kara. Yeah, her. She wore black tonight. A silk blouse tucked into jeans that left nothing to the imagination. Her lipstick matched the wine she sipped on the Uber ride over. She didn't say much on the way here. We hadn't said much in days. Not since the reveal. Not since Natalie confronted both of us, and Kara admitted, openly, shamelessly, that she wanted to burn everything to the ground, just to see what survived. And I let her. Because deep down, even after all the mess, the lies, the deceit, some twisted part of me wanted to see how far we could push it. We walked inside together. People looked, not because they recognized us, but because Kara was always the kind of woman who turned heads, especially when she wanted to. She slid into the booth across from me, legs crossed, eyes locked. "This where you give me the speech?" she asked. "What speech?" "The one where you say you're leaving. That you've learned your lesson. That I was just a revenge fling." I tilted my head. "You want that speech?" She laughed bitterly. "Please. I'd throw my wine in your face before you finished the second line." I leaned forward. "Then tell me what you want." She paused. Then, with maddening calm, she said, "I want to be the last woman Natalie ever thinks about before she sleeps." I stared at her. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I'd already made peace with the fact that we were the same. We were wreckage. Flesh made of fire and ego and broken promises. And maybe, just maybe, the worst thing we ever did was bring each other comfort in the middle of that destruction. We didn't stay long. The bar felt too familiar, too haunted. We left without finishing our drinks, Kara's hand slipping easily into mine as we exited, like this was normal. Like this was us now. She stayed with me that night. No sex, just silence. Two people lying in a bed not built for healing, staring at a ceiling with too many cracks. In the morning, she was still there. And she looked different in the light. Less invincible, maybe. Her makeup smudged, her hair messier than usual. But her eyes were still sharp. "You going to say it?" she asked, voice husky with sleep. "Say what?" "That you regret it." "Me. All of it." I sat up slowly, swung my legs over the side of the bed. "I don't regret you," I said. "I regret who we had to become to get here." She sat up behind me. "You think Natalie's crying somewhere over us?" "No," I said. "I think she's rebuilding." "Good for her." "Yeah." A pause. Then she added, "So now what?" That was the question, wasn't it? Because the game was over. The bet, the revenge, the double lives, all of it played out to the final hand. What remained was something no one had expected. Two people left standing in the wreckage, unsure whether they should walk away or build something new from the ash. I turned to look at her, really look at her, and then I smiled. We leave town. She blinked. What? New place. Clean slate. No Natalie. No ghosts. She stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was serious. Are you running from her? She asked. Or toward me? Does it matter? She thought about it, then nodded once. No more lies, she said. No more dares. We shook on it, like it was just a deal, just a final bet. The irony wasn't lost on me. Natalie started all of this trying to prove a point, that she could be wild again, reckless, desired, that she still had control. She gambled our marriage for a laugh. And now? Now I was walking away with her best friend, suitcase in one hand, middle finger raised in the other. Funny thing about bets. Sometimes the house wins. And this time, the house was me.